Hello everybody, welcome to That's Football. I'm Mark Goldbridge with your latest football news as the pressure builds on Arsenal. Is it right? Is it overreaction? We've also heard from Jurgen Klopp talking about VAR and what he thinks about turning it off. And a little bit of an exclusive to keep an eye on with the January transfer window coming. I've got a little bit of news that might get Newcastle fans excited and Manchester United fans concerned. We'll talk about that as well. Of course, it's a big January coming up. But on that subject, we're back. The podcast is back. Goldbridge Saves Football. We had a little bit of a break over Christmas. New episode landed today. Check it out on Spotify, iTunes. Links in the video description. It's well worth a listen because we're talking the top 5 January Premier League transfers of all time. And there's quite a few names in there who didn't make it. It's well worth a listen. So please support the podcast and get involved. It's been a big 2023 starting that podcast. But let's get into Arsenal straight away. That's what a lot of people seem to do. I've heard Arteta out. Arsenal are out of a title race. Arsenal are finished. You know what I think about this, first of all, is that we've spoken about Arsenal quite a lot over the last 18 months on this channel because the last 18 months has been incredible. When you go back to the start of last season, the famous 43 points out of 48 is what they got. Sort of came from nowhere. No one was predicting it. And Arsenal's trajectory sort of just went from nowhere to title contenders, and the expectations have just grown. And I saw some of the stuff last night, and I saw some of the clips, and I thought, oh, this is dangerous. This is almost the club that some Arsenal fans want you to be. I saw people moaning outside the ground with the microphone in front of them, and I thought, you know, it's almost like they want those days back because that's what they were famous for. Arsenal weren't famous for what they did on the pitch. They were famous for people outside the Emirates moaning and shouting. And obviously those people probably did quite well out of it. And it's almost like some Arsenal fans want those days back. Because I'm telling you now, I'm going to show you something and make this extremely clear to you. Look at the league table and look at where Arsenal are at the moment. And tell me why Arteta needs to go, or why Arsenal are failing, or why Arsenal are finished. It is nonsense and it needs to stop. Because next week they'll be incredible again. And the bottom line is, winning this Premier League is going to be extremely difficult for anybody. Tottenham were 4-0 down to Brighton. Arsenal lose to West Ham. Man City have lost games that people didn't expect this season. Manchester United could win one, lose one. Look at Chelsea. Look at Newcastle. It's a ridiculously competitive league. And I look at that Arsenal side, and to be completely and utterly honest with you, if Arsenal were playing Brighton's best team at Brighton, I don't expect Arsenal to walk over them. If Arsenal are playing Newcastle's best team at St James's Park, I don't expect them to walk over them. Same at Tottenham, same at Anfield, same at the Etihad. Same at Villa Park. I think it's a very competitive league, and it's almost like every time Arsenal lose a game, they're chokers. Arteta's probably not the right man, and we're not going to win the league. And that's not me talking. I'm not an Arsenal fan. I'm talking about third-person Arsenal fans. And I think it's nonsense. Now, do I think Arsenal are going to win the league? Well, if I sit here and say Arsenal are going to win the league, it's going to be the most insightful and amazing bit of genius you've ever heard if they do go and win it. And my honest answer is, I don't think they will win the league, but I don't think it's necessarily a failure if they don't. They're up against a rejuvenated Liverpool who have inexperience in their midfield, but also have Premier League and Champions League winning experience on the pitch with people like Salah, Van Dijk, Trent, Robertson, and a few others. More importantly, they've got a coach who knows how to do it. And they've got a fan base that knows how to do it. So Liverpool against Arsenal, I'd probably lean towards Liverpool. But there's Man City in the game as well. Treble winners. The team that can go and win 15 games in a row, that know how to do it, have got the best squad in the league, the best manager in the league. So I don't see how Arsenal not winning the league is failure. And I think this is where the expectations, I don't know where it starts from, and I don't know who pumps it up, but there needs to be a bit of a reality bite. Arsenal need to finish in the top 3. Arsenal need to compete for this title until April. That's expected. That needs to happen. Do they need to win the title? Well, it'd be very nice for them if they did, but I don't actually think at this moment that they are the favourites. I think Man City are the favourites and Liverpool are second favourites. And I would base that upon the game at Anfield, where really, apart from the first 20 minutes, I felt that individual goal by Mo Salah really took the wind out of Arsenal. And then obviously Trent should have scored, but he hit the bar. Forget the penalty. I mean, that's VAR. We'll talk about that in a moment. So I think reality for Arsenal is that, look, they've got to stay in the fight. They have to. And if they don't, then questions will be asked. But they don't have to win the league. I don't know where this is coming from. I think Man City have got a better squad and a better first 11. I think Liverpool have got a better midfield in depth, and arguably they've got better attackers as well in depth. Not as individuals, but depth, and that's really important. I look at that Arsenal side, they don't have enough depth up front. I don't think their fullbacks are as good as they could be. I don't think they've got amazing depth in the midfield. I think Declan Rice is the only really combative midfielder they've got. And at the moment, it looks a little bit like Saka's tired, Rice is tired. Defensively, they're very good with their centre backs. I think Ray has done a good job, but I don't necessarily look at Arsenal and think that they should be winning the league. And I think so, and I think when they don't win games, the reaction is a little bit over the top. Talking about VAR, obviously Arteta spoke about it last night and said it was a shame the technology wasn't there. Well, I think he handled that quite well, because it was a big bloody shame. The technology's there and it's happened to them twice. But it was interesting listening to Jurgen Klopp in his press conference ahead of the Newcastle game. He was asked about VAR and whether it needs to be switched off, and he basically said, if I speak, I'll be in trouble. I don't really want to speak. But he still did speak, and he said, you do watch games of football and you go, how's that possible? And I presume he's going, how did Man City get a handball when he didn't get one at the weekend? He's absolutely correct. He didn't feel that a couple of their goals against Burnley should have been ruled out. But he was asked whether he would want VAR to be switched off, and he said, no, don't take it away. Use it better. And I think that can happen. And I think that really, I say switch it off. I say it on the podcast all the time. It's not fit for purpose. Switch it off. And I think I'm right when I say that. And I think you're right when you say that. But, Klopp's right, really. It's not going to get switched off. I think the reason I say switch it off, and I think the reason many of you say switch it off, is because it's annoying. And I think when you watch these Carabao Cup games or a championship game with no VAR in it, it's better. It's a better, harsh but true. Games without VAR in are better games. There's never as much time added on. There's a much better flow to the game. You can celebrate a goal instantaneously, because if the linesman's got his flag up, you'll see it. It's a much better viewing experience. And that's a crying shame. That is a crying shame that football is better to watch without VAR. And if I was in a big office at FIFA or UEFA or the Premier League and I could have 10 seconds, I'd say, all I've got to say is football is better to watch without VAR. Mic drop. And they can't come back to that. And that's the problem. That's the problem. How do you make VAR football better than football without VAR? And they don't seem to have that. That would be my obsession if I was in charge of UEFA or I was in charge of the PGMOL. I would be, this is embarrassing. It's like Burger King against McDonald's. Everyone prefers McDonald's. What am I going to do as Burger King to win the customers back? But football doesn't seem to care. They don't seem to care and want to win the customers back. Football is better to watch without VAR. How do you make football better to watch with VAR? And I think that's what Klopp's saying. It can be better. It needs to be quicker, more productive, and more entertaining. And it can be done, but they've got to want to do it. And, whether they do or they don't, I don't know. The consistency's a joke as well. I think the handball rule is a joke. I was listening to what I was reading what Clive Tilsley said on his Twitter this morning. Absolutely spot on. The handball rule is completely different to the handball rule in Europe. And how do you teach under 9s, under 10s, under 11s, under 12s, under 13s the handball rule? It's so confusing. What is a handball? And again, I don't agree with some of the handballs in Europe, but their game is better than ours. They need to focus on these things. The inconsistency in the handball rule, the red card, the offside is making our game worse. Do something about it. Do something about it. Anyway, it is the January transfer window opening up next week. Very quickly, very, very quickly indeed. Just something to keep your eye on. Remember, I've been right about these in the past. Calvin Phillips, Man City, Raheem Sterling to Chelsea. Every now and again, we get ahead of the game on a transfer. Keep your eye on this. Keep your eye on this. David De Gea, short-term deal, Newcastle. Keep an eye on it. It might happen. Stumbling block could be wages, but it might well happen. What do I think about that? I'll be reacting on the United stand if it happens, and I'll be blowing a lid. But in short, I think Newcastle will have a better goalkeeper than us if they go and get David De Gea on a short-term deal, which is incredible considering we spent £50 million to replace him. It's a no-brainer. I don't know why nobody's done it. He's Premier League proven. Obviously, his fitness is something to be questioned about because he's not played for a few months. But let's see if it happens. It could just be a nonsense rumour, but from what we're hearing, there is discussions about it, and they certainly need to do something with Nick Pope out. It'd be a very exciting deal if Newcastle did it. Make sure you smash a like on the video. Get your comments in below. Loads to discuss there. 3 big topics. Let us know if you like that sort of a show where we cover a few things rather than one. And please do check out the podcast. It's a cracking episode. If you want to get into podcasts this year, or you didn't know we had one, Goldbridge Saves Football, out every Friday morning and every Tuesday morning. It's a cracker this week. The best. We preview the games of the weekend, as always on a Friday, but our big topic is the best 5 transfers in Premier League history in January. And there were some amazing candidates, like Seamus Coleman from Sligo Rovers to Everton, happened in January transfer window. Andy Cole from Newcastle to Manchester United happened in the January transfer window. They didn't make the top 5, but we listed quite a few. Check it out, Goldbridge Saves Football podcast, links in the video description. I'll speak to you later. Thanks for watching.